It is the first good Saturday of the season. You're out on a Wisconsin lake in the boat. The walleye are finally biting, and you fire out a cast. Halfway through the retrieve, the line jumps off your spinning reel in a bird's nest the size of a softball. You pick at it in the sunlight. You mutter a few things I won't repeat. You cut out 10 yards of perfectly good monofilament, tie back on, and 20 minutes later it happens again. By noon, you have blamed the wind, blamed the reel, and blamed the fellow at the store who sold you the line. But friend, that mess did not start on the water. It started at your kitchen table, the day you spooled that reel, and the mistake took about 30 seconds to bake in. Today, I am going to show you how to put line on a spinning reel so twist never gets in there in the first place. And stay with me all the way to the end, because that 10-second check on the living room floor, the one where the spool has to face a certain way, works for one specific reason about how a spinning reel picks up line. Nobody at the tackle counter ever explains it, and once you hear it, you will never spool a reel wrong again for the rest of your life. I'm Donna Larsen. I'm 52 years old. I live in the Northwoods of Wisconsin, and I learned to fish in my grandfather's boat on the flowage, walleye openers, musky patience, and the ice shanty every single winter. Between the deer woods and the water, I've got 44 seasons behind me. I have spooled more reels at that kitchen table than I could count, most of them exactly the way Grandpa showed me. Now let's talk about what that twist is actually costing you. Every bird's nest is 10 or 15 yards of line in the trash. Do that 4 times a season and you're buying a new spool of line you never needed. Twisted line throws wind knots on the cast, and a wind knot at the wrong moment costs you the lure, the leader, and sometimes the fish of the day, all in one snap. Twisted line also kills your casting distance because it comes off the spool fighting itself instead of flowing. And the worst part is what most folks do about it. They decide the line was cheap junk, so they go buy the $20 spool instead of the $7 spool. Then they put it on the reel the exact same wrong way, and the expensive line twists just like the cheap line did. Grandpa used to say you can't buy your way out of a bad habit, and he was talking about exactly this. The fix is not in your wallet. The fix is in how the line goes on, and there are really only 4 things to get right. Hold on to that question about which way the spool faces, because the why behind it is coming, and I promise it is the part that makes everything else click. Now, before we spool this reel, most of you found me through the deer stand, and everything I teach on the water or in the woods comes out of the same place as the book I put together. It is called Donna's Whitetail Bible, 101 field-tested whitetail tricks from 44 seasons in the woods. I wrote it for hunters who already do the basics right and still come home empty-handed more than they'd like. It covers the problems that actually cost you deer, things like turning those nocturnal camera bucks into daylight shots, figuring out why a good stand went dead, and hunting around everybody else's pressure. It is told plain, no gear ads, and no $400 gadgets, because Dad always said the deer don't care what you spent. Right now it is $17, marked down from $47. That is less than 1 tank of gas to your hunting spot, for the tricks the old-timers spent lifetimes learning. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, friend, back to the kitchen table because the reel is waiting. Step 1 happens before any line touches the reel. Open the bail. That is the wire arm on the front of the spinning reel, and it flips up like a gate. Open it first, every time. I have watched grown men at the boat landing tie a beautiful knot to the spool with the bail closed. spool up all their new line, and then stand there confused when they flip the bail and the whole works falls slack. If the bail is closed when you tie on, the line is trapped on the wrong side of the gate and nothing you wind after that will hold. So the order matters. Open the bail, then run the end of the line down through the bottom guide on your fishing rod, the big one closest to the reel. Then bring it to the spool and tie on. The knot itself is simple and is called an arbor knot. Tie one overhand knot around the standing line so it makes a loop around it. Then tie a second overhand knot in the tag end, just a plain knot in the loose tip. Wet the knots with a little spit. Pull the standing line slow and steady. The first knot slides down and snugs against the spool, and the second knot jams behind it like a doorstop. Trim the tag end close. Take your time with it, there is no rush. That little knot has held every walleye I have ever hooked deep, and it will hold yours. Step 2 is where almost everybody goes wrong, and it is the simplest step of the bunch. Take your new supply spool of line and lay it flat on the floor. Label facing up. Flat on the carpet, like a dinner plate. Not standing up on its edge like a wheel, not spinning on a pencil between two chair backs, the way your buddy swears by. Flat on the floor, label up. I know some of you boys have run the pencil method since Eisenhower was in office, and I say that with love, because half the fellows at camp did too. Hold that thought about why flat beats the pencil, because it is the exact thing I promised you at the start, and we are getting closer to it. Step 3 is Grandpa's 10-second check, and this is the one that saves you. With the line tied on and the supply spool flat on the floor, close the bail. Pinch the line lightly between two fingers just ahead of the reel. Now crank the handle 15 or 20 turns. That is 15 or 20, enough to get a reel layer on there. Then stop. Open the bail back up. Strip off 6 feet or so of the line you just wound and let it hang slack toward the floor. Now watch what the line does. If it hangs soft and lazy, with maybe a gentle wave in it, you are set, and you can close the bail and keep filling. But if that slack line springs into coils, twisting around itself like a phone cord from the old wall phone at the supper club, stop right there. Flip the supply spool over on the floor so the label faces down. Reel that slack back up and check it again. One of those two positions will lay the line on calm, and the other will load it up with twist, and the check tells you which is which every single time on every reel and every line you will ever own. 10 seconds on the living room floor, and it decides whether your whole season casts clean. Step 4 is tension and fill, and both numbers matter. Line has to go on the reel snug, not loose. Loose wraps on the spool dig into each other under a fish, and the next cast pulls a wad instead of a smooth flow. The old way is a damp rag. Fold it once, pinch the line inside it with your free hand a couple feet ahead of the reel, and crank against that light drag. Damp matters, because a dry rag on fast-moving mono builds heat, and heat is hard on line. Keep cranking with that steady pinch until the line sits 1/8 of an inch below the lip of the reel spool. That is 1/8 of an inch, about the thickness of 2 quarters stacked together, from the line down to the edge. Overfill it past that, and the line leaps off in loops on the cast, and there is your wind knot. Underfill it, leave a 1/4 inch of empty spool showing, and every cast drags over that lip and dies short. So 1/8 of an inch it is. Let me gather that up before we go on. Bail open, line through the bottom guide, arbor knot. Supply spool flat, label up. 15 or 20 cranks, then the slack line check, flip if it coils. Damp rag tension filled to 1/8 of an inch from the lip. 2 quick notes before the part I promised you. First, braided line. Braid is slick as a wet dog and tied straight to a bare metal spool. The whole works can spin in place like a tire on ice. So, put a few yards of cheap monofilament on first as backing, Tie the braid to the mono with a simple double uni knot and spool the rest the same way I just showed you. Second, if the line already on your reel is twisted right now, there is a fix that costs nothing. Cut off the lure, tie on nothing at all, and let that bare line all the way out behind the boat at trolling speed or out into good river current from the bank. Let the water work it for a few minutes. The current pulls the twist right out the free end. Then reel it back in slow under a pinch of tension. Grandpa did that on the Flowage Every opener, dragging line behind the boat while he poured coffee from the thermos, and I thought he was just fussing until I understood why. Which brings us, friend, right to the answer I have been holding since the start. Here is what nobody at the tackle counter tells you. On a spinning reel, the spool never turns. Read the front of your reel while it sits on the rod and you will see it. The spool just sits there and that wire bail rotates around it in a circle, wrapping the line on like winding yarn around your hand. And anytime you wrap a line around a fixed object in circles, every single wrap puts one twist into the line. That is not a flaw in your reel. That is simply how the machine works, and it is why spinning reels twist line and bait casters, where the spool itself revolves, do not. Now think about your supply spool on the floor. You are pulling line off the end of it while it lays still, the same way the reel takes it. So the line comes off in coils, and those coils carry their own twist in one direction or the other depending on which face is up. When the label sits the right way up, the coils coming off the floor turn the same direction the bail is wrapping them on. The twist the supply spool gives is the twist the reel wants, so it lays down flat and stays asleep in the line. Flip that spool wrong, and the two fight each other. Every crank of the handle stacks twist on top of twist, winding your line up like a rubber band on a toy airplane. And it stores all that energy quietly until the first slack moment on the water, and then it springs. That softball bird's nest in May was wound up at your kitchen table in March. Grandpa never used the word rotation in his life. He just laid the spool flat, ran the check, and flipped it if it coiled, because the check is the whole physics lesson in 10 seconds. The old-timers usually knew the what long before anybody wrote down the why. And that right there is exactly the kind of thing the old-timers handed me for free. I put 101 of them, the whitetail ones, into Donna's Whitetail Bible so they don't die with the men who taught me. If you hunt deer and you're tired of tag soup, it is $17, down from $47, which is less than one lure you'll lose to a wind knot you didn't fix. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you used to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So that's the whole job. Bail open, spool flat and label up, run the 10-second check, damp rag tension to 1/8 of an inch from the lip. And the twist never moves in. Now tell me something, friend. What's the one piece of gear you regret buying? Put it below. We've all got one, and I read every single one. Next time, I'm going to show you how to tie the one knot my grandfather used on every single walleye rig he ever fished, and why that plain old knot outholds the fancy new ones most folks are tying wrong anyway. Keep your wen right and your coffee hot, and I'll see you in the woods.